Welcome to the Portable Classroom. Welcome to the Portable Classroom Grammar Zone. Today our topic is bare-bone sentences. We're going to talk about transitive verbs and intransitive verbs. This is the second meeting of transitive and intransitive verbs. Now first, let's go back to what we learned last time and have a quick review of what transitive verbs are and intransitive verbs are. First, let's look at this. Alright, so we know that there are transitive verbs and intransitive verbs. So this intransitive verbs are verbs that we do not use with objects. So there's no need for objects. And among these five types of verbs, there is another intransitive verbs. Welcome to the Portable Classroom Grammar Zone. Today our topic is about the bare-bone sentences. We're going to talk about verb transitive and verb intransitive. This is the second meeting of this topic. Now, without further ado, let's quickly review what we have learned from the previous meeting. So, now we know there are five different kinds of verbs, and they are intransitive verbs, transitive verbs, linking verbs, incomplete transitive verbs, and dative verbs. Now, in truth, there are only two kinds of verbs, and these five different kinds of verbs fall into these two categories: intransitive verb and transitive verbs. Linking verb is a kind of intransitive verbs. Now, we talked about what linking verbs are. There are be verbs, verbs about five sentences, and verbs that reflect the state of being. As for incomplete transitive verbs and dative verbs, a verb that requires two objects rather than one, they are transitive verbs. So intransitive verbs and dative verbs, they are a kind of transitive verbs. Now we finished talking about linking verb last time, so we're going to start from incomplete transitive verbs today. So, let's see. Alright, let's take a look at incomplete transitive verbs. What does incomplete transitive verb mean? Now we know that transitive verbs are verbs that are followed by at least an object. Incomplete transitive verbs means the verb is not only followed by an object, it is also followed by an object complement. Now, we talked about what complements are in the last class. Complements are nouns or adjectives, and we use complements to talk about objects or subjects. If it is a subject complement, we use it to talk about subjects. If it is an object complement, we use it to talk about an object. So let's take a look at some examples. Alright. First, the people elected him the president. Now we know the verb over here is the verb incomplete transitive. This is the object. And this is an object complement which talks about the object him. So the president is not referring to the people over here, which is the subject. It is about the object him. So people elected him the president. Verb, object, object complement. Let's look at the next one. I consider Mary my friend. Consider, verb incomplete transitive. An object, this is an object complement. So you can see my friend is actually a noun. So instead of talking about the person here, my friend is an object complement which talks about the object Mary. Let's look at the next one. I name my dog Lucky. Again, verb, object, and object complement. And you can see that Lucky is also a noun. This is the name of his dog. Let's look at the next one. I make him happy. This object complement is an adjective. So we know that all complements can be nouns or adjectives. Okay, so this is incomplete transitive verbs. Let's look at the next one. Alright, the next category is what we call dative verbs. Now, dative verbs are transitive verbs that need two objects. An indirect object and a direct object. And we will look at an example and I'll explain what indirect and direct objects are. Let's look at the examples. I give you a flower. So you can see give, it's a dative verb that needs two objects. This is the indirect object and this is the direct object. How do we define direct objects and indirect objects? Now, take this sentence for example. When I give you the flower, first I touch the flower, and through me, you get the flower. So I touch the flower first, and then you get the flower through me. So this is the direct object, and that is the indirect object. Of course, we can switch the positions of direct object and indirect object by adding one extra word. I can say, I give a flower to you. So the magic word that we need is the word to. And then we can change the positions of these two words. And now let's look at the next example. He sends me a flower again. The indirect, direct object. Change the positions of the two words. He sends a book to me. Let's look at the next example. I lend him money. Again, indirect, direct. Change the positions. I lend money to him. Next. Mary sings me a song. Again, we can change the positions of these two words by saying Mary sings a song to me. Remember the magic word to. So now you know what dative verbs are. Dative verbs are verbs that require two objects instead of one. An indirect object and a direct object. An indirect object is this. A direct object is the thing that touches first. We touch that first, for example, like in this sentence, we touch the flower first, and through me, the person you, get the flower. Alright? So this is the end of the verb that we for bare bone sentences. So thank you for watching this video.